This example is finding the sine and cosine given that the tangent of theta is -2. This angle falls in the fourth quadrant between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi. So if you remember, we have our cosine of theta is unknown, our sine of theta is unknown, and they give us that the tangent of this angle is -2. For the cosine, that represents the x in the unit circle. That has to be a positive value. Then the sine has to be a negative value because that's your y value. So we're going to start off with the tangent of theta is sine over cosine. And I know that the tangent of this angle is -2, so I'm going to substitute that in. Now I'm just going to convert one of the equations to either sine or cosine. So what I'm going to do is multiply both sides by the cosine of theta. And what happens to the right side is the cosine of thetas will cancel out. So I have then that the sine of theta equals -2 cosine of theta. The next thing is I'm going to use the Pythagorean identity. The sine squared of theta plus the cosine squared of theta equals 1. Now I'm going to substitute in the sine of theta, which equals -2 cosine of theta. So that's going to go right into here. So I have -2 cosine of theta, and I have two of them because it's sine squared. And then the rest of the Pythagorean identity stays as it is. Now what we did is we converted that Pythagorean identity to all the same trig function of cosine. So now I'm going to go ahead and square this first piece. -2 times -2 is 4. Cosine of theta times cosine of theta is cosine squared of theta. And then the rest of the equation is still the same. Now what you'll see is you have 4 cosine squared of theta plus cosine squared of theta. Those are like terms. I'm just going to put a 1 here. Now I have 5 cosine squared of theta equals 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue undoing this question. I'm not able to pull that down. Just give me a minute here. I have some more room to work with. We're going to continue undoing this equation, so we will divide both sides by 5. And then we want to undo the cosine squared, so we're going to square root both sides. We get a plus or minus. Then the cosine of theta is square root of 1 over the square root of 5, plus or minus, which is 1 square root of 5. Have to rationalize it. So we get plus or minus the square root of 5 over 5. Now if you remember from this picture up here, the cosine of theta in the fourth quadrant has to be positive. So we can eliminate the negative answer. So the cosine of theta is the square root of 5 over 5. We found our first answer. Now we just have one piece left. We have to find the sine of theta. So I'm going to use that same equation that I used at the beginning of the problem. The tangent of theta is sine of theta over the cosine of theta. And I was given the tangent of theta is -2. The sine of theta is unknown. The cosine of theta we just found to be square root of 5 over 5. Now we're going to solve this for the sine of theta. So I'm going to multiply both sides by this square root of 5 over 5. So negative 2 times square root of 5 over 5. And then that eliminates the fraction in the denominator. Now I'll multiply across. Negative 2 square roots of 5 over 5 equals the sine of theta.